episode of Video Game Logic. Today's show was recorded on August 14th, 2018. I'm your host, Gaming Psychologist, and with me, as always, a man who doesn't need the heat index to tell you how hot he is.
Caffeine Rage.
On today's show, we will of course be discussing the games that we played this week. Some companies are once again attacking consumer rights. Bethesda says the situation could be fairly dire if Sony disallows the Elder Scrolls Legends crossplay. Discord is opening its own digital game store. EA creates a, quote, moral compass to prevent Battlefront 2-esque disasters. We'll have our weekly community corner with a suggested topic from Jim on how VR's next generation shows key signs of a maturing market. And we'll also have our Steam weekly discovery queue. Timestamps will be in the show notes following their respective topics. Good evening, Rage. I say once again as if we haven't been talking for like 45 minutes.
You're breaking the illusion.
Give or take. Yes. We have just now started talking for the first time tonight.
Ever.
Yes, ever. Those 120 previous episodes were all created by AI algorithms.
No, they were procedurally generated by a roguelite.
Yes, called Podcasting Buddies. Buy it on Steam for 99 cents.
And it does not include a crypto miner at all.
Definitely not. It also doesn't include any viruses, and it does include an exe file that works.
And definitely does not contain just RPG Maker assets flipped again.
No, it definitely does not.
Are we cynical about the market or what?
No, we are not cynical. Oh, I don't know why I keep doing that little inflection in my voice. It was funny for like 2 seconds, maybe. And then it got old even to me, but I just kept doing it, hoping the joke would get funny again.
Also known as most of your jokes.
I gave up, though. As
also
I tend
known
to
as
do
most of your jokes.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. Anyways, hi. How are you?
I'm here. I've had my coffee. I'm ready to go tonight.
Yeah, me too. I'm not sure it's helping. Although I haven't yawned in like
at least 5 minutes.
6 minutes. So we got that going for me.
Which is nice.
Yeah. I just kind of had one of those days where I was really tired and kind of all day.
With or without spinning your office chair?
There was some spinning, I will admit. But yeah, it's been a long weekend. You know what's going on. For anyone who has attempted to contact me, I hid in offline mode for part of the weekend, and then the other part of the weekend I was like not being very interactive. I have some stuff going on in my personal life. And if anyone wants to know, I don't mind to share, but I'm not going to like blast the whole thing out here on the podcast because it has to do with my extended family, and Katie's side of the family, and I'm going to respect their privacy on the open interwebs.
Yeah, but the closed ones.
Yeah, but you know what's going on. So I had a weekend, let's say. And then today at work was just like this weird like on and off all day. Like this morning we were slammed, and then there were a couple hours where it was dead. And I got really sleepy. Then we got slammed again. And then the rest of my day kind of just died, petered out. So I'm coming into this evening like tired and kind of like
but not too tired to say Franken episode?
Yeah. We definitely have the content for another couple of Franken episodes right now, but I'm not too tired. Plus I want to talk about Monster Hunter World, which would be an excellent segue to games we played.
Oh, go for it.
I'm just gonna
go for it.
Go for it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's go for it.
Okay. Are you saying that I should go first? Because
Well, you've already gotten the segue. Come on, let's go.
Sweet. So I bought Monster Hunter World. Bought Monster Hunter World this past week. And for people who follow me on Twitter, you'll see that I forgot specifically when it was releasing on PC, which was last Friday or last Thursday. and I saw on Friday that it released, and I was like, oh, sweet baby Jesus, Monster Hunter World. Because that's one of the only games I was looking forward to this year. It was Battletech, Monster Hunter World, and Jurassic World Evolution. Those were the three games that, like, three of the games that I was
So, in
most
other
looking forward
words,
to this year.
if it had the world in it.
Yeah, pretty much. But this is the first year in a long time where every game I have been excited for has come out and had decent enough reviews that I bought it. Because I bought Battletech brand new. I guess technically I didn't buy Jurassic Park. My mom bought that for me. Because she was like, we can play Jurassic Park together.
I'm just looking at the reviews on Steam, and they are not good.
For what, Monster Hunter World?
Oh, yeah.
Really, I haven't checked out the Steam reviews. I read several reviews basically checking its performance. Because I knew that I would like the gameplay combination of based on my previous experience with the Monster Hunter franchise, and then the reviews for the consoles confirming basically it was the same game as the older Monster Hunter games. So what are the Steam reviews saying that's bad?
Well, it's sitting right now. Now, mind you, this game only has 17,748 reviews. Or sorry, 46 reviews.
Only that many. Okay.
And it's sitting at 46%. Recommended.
Okay.
Looks like mostly due to network connectivity issues.
Okay.
And also some console focused UI elements, which, fine. I mean, it was launched first on consoles, so I'm not happy that it would have a console-focused UI, but, it's understandable that they wouldn't want to completely redo everything. It looks like the main thing is a lot of people either disconnecting or also the fact that it's rather weighty on system requirements, particularly around the fog settings.
Yeah. So, I've got a 480. I've got my i7. My computer is somewhere around like upper mid range at this point in terms of performance standards, and I haven't had any issue with dips below 60 with some adjustments to the graphics settings. I don't have everything set to high. I don't have everything set to ultra or anything like that. There's a lot of mixed, a lot of extra post processing effects that I've turned off. A lot of stuff sitting at medium, but
yeah, well, the big thing I've seen people talking about is that fog setting. Turning it off is 15 frames for some people.
Yeah, I did turn the fog off. I don't like the fog, but there's an occasional dip below 60, but for the most part, it holds somewhere between 60 and 70. I actually just wound up capping it at 60. And that seems to be like my graphic settings seem to be doing just fine. And the game is gorgeous. I mean, even with my settings on mostly medium, it still looks better than on the consoles or than the console version, and plays at 60 99% of the time. So win-win on that one.
Wow,
but I can see if people were...
Sorry, I was just looking through here and I was looking at the DLC. Have you gotten your free DLC?
Yeah. Okay. I have.
I'm a little surprised that they have free cosmetic DLC.
Yep. I got it. But I've had my settings, like I said, mostly medium. A couple of extra things turned off. That honestly I couldn't tell a real big difference on, but it was eating into my frame rate quite a bit. I might have noticed on higher resolution or something like that, but yeah, 1080, 60, pretty easy to maintain on my system with, roughly medium settings. And the game is gorgeous. Probably the biggest problem is people trying to play this game with keyboard and mouse. It's apparently a shitty port job to try and play it with keyboard and mouse. I went straight to controller just because I've got a lot of experience with several of the previous Monster Hunter games, and I couldn't imagine playing this game keyboard and mouse. It's just one of those games that works better with a controller. But anyways, yeah, Monster Hunter is this interesting thing. Like, I've been familiar with it for a long time. The first Monster Hunter game that I played was I forget exactly what it was. It might have just been like Monster Hunter PSP or something like that. But it was the PSP version of Monster Hunter. And I got that when I got my PSP many years ago. I think I was in middle school. I was still riding the school bus. And me and a couple of my friends got Monster Hunter, and we would play every day going to and from school. And we would link up and we would hunt monsters together. And then I've owned a couple of other ones. The last one I owned before this one was Monster Hunter 3 on the Wii U. And I played that game to completion, at least in terms of like the main story, as far as that's concerned. Monster Hunter games have never really been super story heavy. There's like a general story that's like, hey, here's why all these monsters are here and why you're hunting them. And it typically is along the lines of like, you want to be the best, or you're a researcher.
The very best. The best that ever was.
Or you're a researcher and killing all of these monsters is how you research them, right? Make sense? Okay, sweet. Go do it. And this one is, I mean, that's the story for this one. It's like, oh, there's these monsters and they migrate to this island every so often. So you're going to go hunt them and research them. And like you do the hunting and you've got like a partner.
The Palico.
Who's the researcher. No, the Palico is just like your companion that helps you out in combat. You've actually got like a research partner who's called your handler. But I mean,
what was Fluffer already taken?
I called my Palico Mr. Smithers. But I mean, this game has always been like silly, over the top B-movie type thing, and that continues with this. Like, it looks pretty good. Well, certain aspects of it look amazing, and certain aspects of it are just kind of like B-movie stuff. But it's got a lot of actually, I mean, it's a good example, another good example of a AA game, because like it looks gorgeous. The combat system is incredible, and I'll talk much more about that here in a little bit. But then it's like only partially voice acted, and the cutscenes, like the lip syncing is off. And I could see like people being bothered by that sort of thing. Absolutely. Like, I'm not saying that you can't be bothered by that, but to me, it's like part of the charm of this series of game, or this, this game series, having played it over the course of the last decade or so. Like, haha. Like, they made it look pretty and they expanded the combat system, but it's still, the story is silly and the voice acting is bad. The best way around that, honestly, is to just set it to English subtitles with Japanese voiceover, and then you don't notice. But if you do like B-movie, sort of AA silliness, do leave the English language on along with the subtitles, and you can laugh at how bad the voice acting is for a little bit before you switch over to Japanese. There's been a lot of comparisons from people comparing this series to Dark Souls. Kyle asked me a little bit about that too. And
for fuck's sake, does everything have to be Dark Souls?
Well, I think that's interesting.
That actually ties into one of my games coming up, by the way.
Yeah, well, the Monster Hunter series predates Dark Souls, predates Demon Souls, but because it wasn't popular at all in the West, I mean, there were people like me and my friends and a few others who played it, but it was never like it was a very niche title. Also, just the
weirdos.
Yeah, just the weirdos. It was a very niche title in the West. Dark Souls got way more popular over here before Monster Hunter did, so people are comparing Monster Hunter to Dark Souls and asking if it's inspired and whatnot. And there are a few comparisons to be made. For example, much like Dark Souls, the entire way that you play comes down to your equipment set. There's no like stats that you can boost or anything outside of what your equipment gives you. And your play styles are vastly different depending on which type of equipment you take into the battle. And the bulk of the game does revolve around the boss fights. But and those can be very challenging, like a Dark Souls boss fight. But that's pretty much where the similarities end. And even then, Monster Hunter is nowhere near as punishing as Dark Souls. You don't have the same sort of, well, if you die, you lose everything or lots of your stuff, or the game doesn't get more difficult if you die. If you die, your Palico's dead for good. Yeah. And the game is not as open well, Dark Souls isn't really an open world, but you can
It's
sort
an
of
interconnected world.
it's interconnected, and you can sort of explore at your own leisure, whereas Monster Hunter World has got a series of smaller handcrafted maps to explore that you unlock once you're able to actually accomplish certain story goals, which basically means you've gotten good enough to beat a monster, like one of the specific monsters, and then you unlock the next area. So I mean, there are some similarities, some small comparisons to be made, but I mean, if you're a Dark Souls player who's like heard that this game is like Dark Souls, it's not really. It's not. But yeah, that's a good segue into the equipment system, I think. So this game has got 14 different weapon types. You've got some of your standards, like you've got sword and board. You've got a great sword. You've got what are they called? Palm and a half sword. So it's like a long sword, but there's no shield with it.
Do you have born out of wedlock sword?
It's like it's like a katana. Think like a dai katana, like a really long katana, but not like a claymore-sized sword. Although the great swords are, I mean, this game is very anime, so a great sword is like 3 times larger than your character and would weigh, 1,000 pounds in the real world and be completely unusable, but because anime, right? So,
basically Final Fantasy VII, the Buster Sword.
Yeah, actually, that's a really good comparison. Then there's some ranged weapons like a bow and arrow. There's a crossbow. It's called a bow gun, but it's basically a crossbow. And then there's a large bow gun,
wrong.
Which is kind of like a cannon, like a hand cannon. Well, like a minigun, I guess. A weird anime minigun. But then you've got some odd stuff. So there's a couple of different axes that transform. So there's an axe that transforms into a greatsword. But it's like a smaller greatsword, so it swings a little bit faster and is slightly less powerful. But the whole fighting style for that weapon is comboing axe moves into sword moves and then back into axe moves. Excuse me. Then there's I guess two-handed daggers is a pretty common action game thing, but then there's also an axe and shield, and the shield can be put onto the axe to make it into like a great axe that's like twice as powerful but only half as fast. There's a bow staff that you can use, but that has like a lot of aerial play, so one of the things that the game encourages you to do with that is to like pole vault yourself into the air and then do massive anime combo attacks while you're midair. There's the support weapon is bagpipes, so that's fun.
What does it make the monster bleed from its ears?
It's designed to debuff monsters and buff allies, and then it's got like some attacks that are
here
really
you
weak.
thought it would debuff everybody.
I'm
especially a low level bagpipe player.
Yeah.
Now, whenever you put on the bagpipe, does it come with the kilt, or is that added armor?
Oh, that's added armor. There is some armor though that looks like kilts that would work for that look.
Now, also, is it plaid? Because it has to be plaid.
You can make it plaid, yeah. But I'm trying to think of the other weird weapons. I haven't used all of them, but I've used a lot of them just to test them out. And they are vastly different. Like completely different playstyle from weapon to weapon. Even the weapons that are similar, like greatsword versus longsword, completely different playstyle. All 3 of the ranged weapons, the longbow and then the 2 bow guns, 3 completely different playstyles. Sword and board versus 2 daggers, it's vastly different playstyles. And it's a very simple combat system to learn. It's one of those easy to learn, difficult to master type systems. Mm-hmm. And the whole system is broken down between, at least on the Xbox controller, B and Y. And one is one type of attack and the other is another type of attack. And then some of them can be comboed with A, which is like a dodge roll, or right trigger, which can be a block for certain weapons. But right trigger is sort of like the special or the alternate ability for the weapons, except for the bows or the ranged weapons. And then right trigger is just the trigger to shoot. But it's amazing how many different combo combat systems they've been able to seamlessly put onto those three or four buttons. And it's never confusing either. And all of the weapons, like, you start with the base level or the base version of all of these weapons. So once the game opens up after the first, 30 minutes, because this is a Japanese action RPG, so you've got 30 minutes of intro cutscenes and dialogue before you actually get to do anything.
That seems rather short for a Japanese RPG.
People say it's like an hour, but it only took me about 30 minutes to get through it all. But
well, maybe it's because you turned on the Japanese voice acting.
Maybe so. But, you can go in and you can practice with all these weapons. You can try them all out before you go out into the field. And then everything is just upgrades. Like, there's two base versions of each weapon. One that you start with that's like a steel weapon, and then one that you can craft or purchase that's a bone weapon. And then you just build them up over time as you go out and hunt monsters and bring back their body parts and, attach them to your weapons to somehow make it completely different and stronger because anime.
Mm-hmm.
And the same goes for the armor. All of the armor is crafted based on the animal parts that you procure and combine because anime. And they all have, different stats, and you can upgrade them. You just get experience that you can use to upgrade your armor whenever you wear it out into the field to complete missions. And there's armor set bonuses. Yeah, because anime. There's armor set bonuses and stuff, but really, you can just pick what you like and the way it looks. And then as far as I can tell, there's there's got to be some limit at some point. But I've got one piece of armor that I really like that's level 20 because I just keep leveling it up because I don't like the look of any of the new armor. And it has comparative stats to other armor, so you just keep leveling them up. So the game really allows you to just go with whatever you want and customize it to your heart's content. And there's a whole nother deep crafting system that I haven't gotten to in this game that involves, but I have in others, that involves traps and bombs and that you use to lure in the larger and more dangerous animals to hunt, which is really where, this game is extremely enjoyable. If you've never played this type of game before, the first few hours as you're learning the ropes, the creatures that you're fighting are pretty simple. But once you start hunting the higher level monsters like the dragons or the elder beasts or the kraken type monsters or whatever, the really crazy high level monsters, even when you're working together as a team, they can be extremely difficult to take down. And you have to strategize the phases and how you're going to fight them. And you can set up traps in areas that they're likely to go through, set up poisons. This game allows you to sort of ambush creatures, so you can climb on to things and then jump down on top of them and attack. You can essentially rodeo them and attack weak points on their back or the neck, or stab their eyes out, depending on what the creature is and where you're able to land and how long you can stay on, because they're obviously trying to get you off of them. And you collect you track the animals before you attack them and collect research information and signs and data about them so that they're easier for you to hunt. If you just go after one, you can randomly stumble upon them and you can fight them, but eventually if you're winning, they'll try and retreat. And if you haven't actually done any tracking of them before, they'll run away and you won't be able to figure out where they're going. But if you have done tracking, there's levels of tracking, and you have these little what are they? They're like firefly type creatures that, behave sort of like hound dogs or whatever. And they will track down creatures based on the amount of data you've collected on them. And so, if you've got a creature 100%ed, when it runs away, you can just follow the fireflies exactly to where the monster is. But if you've got, only 1 or 2 levels, they might sort of point you in the general direction of where the monster went, and you'll have to track it down a little more naturally, but at least with some help. So that's fun. And also what's fun is if you're in combat with one monster and a bigger, scarier monster shows up, and then you're like, well, fuck this shit, I'm out. Because one of the early game monsters is like a giant lizard, or think like a giant Komodo dragon. And halfway through the first fight I was having with it, this basically T-Rex type monster showed up, and they were like, "Oh fuck, run away!" They didn't say fuck, but she was like, "Oh my gosh, it's a whatever monster."
Godzilla.
I can't remember its name. She's like my handler. She's like, "Oh my god, you need to run away. You can't fight that." And I'm like, this is part of the mission. This isn't some random thing that just happened. I'm gonna stay in the fight, and it ate me. It just was like, and it grabbed me. It did like the whole shake thing like the T-Rex does in Jurassic Park. And it's like...
like you're a lawyer.
It's like, you fainted. And I'm like, I definitely didn't faint. I just got eaten. But okay, that's what the game's going to do.
No. The T-Rex ate your whole and you passed out. And your Palico was having to pick through the droppings to try to find you.
Yeah. The Palicos are great. They're, in addition to this game only, like they've been in previous games as like the people that help out around the town and stuff like that, but they've never actually went out into the field with you. And I mean, they're nowhere near as good as having another person to fight the monsters. But what they will do is they'll provide a distraction.
And they're adorable.
They are adorable. Mine's lime green. Mr. Smithers is lime green because he matches my hair because I'm an anime chick with bright green hair and pigtails and pink eyes. Because, of course.
In other words, you do additional damage to the monster's visual sense.
Yeah. Yep.
And fashion sense.
Yep.
Now I'm just imagining a monster going, "Oh, God, you're wearing that out in the field? That's it. Just kill me. Kill me now."
But, anyways, the Palicos, they do minimal combat damage. But what they're really good for, the two things they're really good for is providing a distraction, because you can sort of run away, and you can't order them around, but they seem to have a fairly intelligent AI. It's like, if I start running away, he's going to jump in there and try and grab the monster's attention and pull him away. Because if I'm running, that means I either need to sharpen my weapon, heal, or I just need to leg it out of there because I'm about to get eaten. So
now I'm just imagining anime chick with a whetstone going, "Oh God, the sword's dulled again. Why did I buy the cheap one?"
It looks really silly. It really does. Especially because my primary weapon is the great sword. So the animation doesn't quite match up because it's like I'm sharpening this thing and it's like you're like halfway up the blade and you're not even sharpening the whole
good
thing.
enough.
It's like, good enough. It's my sharpness level is green again, so I'll be doing maximum damage. But yeah, so the Palico will distract. The other thing that they're good for is that every once in a while they'll toss you a heal, so they can save your life occasionally. But I mean, there's no revive or anything. Like if you go down, it takes you back to the camp, the nearest camp, and like a group of Palicos wheel you up on like a cart and just dump you on the ground unceremoniously.
Now the question is, do you have stink lines coming off of you from where they pulled you out of?
No, you don't. You do not.
Missed opportunity.
That would be funny. It would be funny. But yeah, so those are the Palicos. They also, you can completely customize their equipment, and they can get their own set of extremely cute armor and weapons. Well, multiple sets, not just one set. I kind of like the look of the starting Palico equipment, but you cannot upgrade the Palico equipment like you can yours. So in order for them to get better stats, you have to craft them better equipment. But the starting equipment that I picked for my Palico looks kind of like, they've got like little aviator goggles and like a fur-lined leather coat. And some kind of like boomerang weapon. But now he's got like a sword and some armor. Because I actually crafted him some stuff out of ores and metal. Because it had the best stats. But I'm trying to think if there's anything that I've missed in discussing this. It's a really fun, really good game that this one would definitely be better with friends. It's designed to be an MMO of sorts, and a lot more of the systems are geared towards having people to play with than in the previous games, which all the previous games have had some sort of online or if you go back far enough, LAN play where you can team up and go on hunts with your friends. But this one is geared completely towards it. Like, you're always in a party, and I've been going private matches because I don't want to play with random assholes. I just voice chat off and private games all the way so that nobody can join me. But I would like to have some friends to play with, because there's definitely some enjoyment to be had in teaming up to hunt down some of the more difficult creatures.
Well, if I was confident my computer would run it, I would be a lot more tempted. But seeing some people complaining about how weighty it is on its system resources, yeah,
it's pretty tough. I've got it on my my SSD, my external SSD, which I have now. That's a story for another time, I guess, dear listener. But Rage knows the story of how I put that thing together. So not as good as my internal SSD, but way faster than the drive I use for most of my games, because it's just a hard disk. So I don't have any of the loading or pop-in issues that people have mentioned on the reviews, because I'm playing it straight off of an SSD, which is good. Like, I would expect it to not have any of those issues. And you've got the GPU for it, because you've actually got a better GPU than I do, and I'm not having any problems on the GPU side.
Yeah, it's just the CPU.
But your CPU, yeah, might struggle. I got it. There was a launch discount. I got this game for $40 or 40 something dollars. It was less than 45, but more than 40. Just like a sort of weird number with the taxes and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And it is well worth, $40-45. As long as you understand, like, this game has a lot of AA qualities to it. Like, the part where it matters, the gameplay mechanics and how gorgeous the worlds are and the creatures, like, that's where all of the effort went into it. I can't speak to any server issues. I haven't had any, and I've been playing since launch. I mean, I bought it.
Yeah, but you're also playing single player, so essentially.
Well, I mean, it's still always online. I'm just having private matches. Although if the issue with connectivity is people are getting dropped from games with their friends, then yeah, that's something I'm not having to deal with. But I mean, the game does have a lot of, B-movie AA quality to it in terms of, like, the cutscene animations and the voice acting and, some other weird things like that. But it's got it where it counts. And if you're into this type of game, third-person action RPGs, or you've played a Monster Hunter game before and are wondering if this is worth it now that there's one on PC, yes, definitely. Honestly, I would have paid $60 for it, and I think for $60, I would be saying the same things. But if you somehow run up on like a sale or a discount or something, definitely worth it. And I'm going to keep playing it. I haven't played it for as much as I intended to. Like I said earlier, weird weekend. Needed a lot more time to just decompress. And Monster Hunter, I am not to the point where I can listen to podcasts and play it at the same time. Although it is a game where that could happen.
Especially if you're farming monsters.
Yeah, especially if you're just farming. But right now I'm not doing that. So I played a lot of Spin Tires this weekend while listening to podcasts. But Monster Hunter World, good game. B+ game for me, I think. Maybe even up to an A-, because I kind of like the B-movie stuff. I kind of like the silliness of it. But
you like the schlocky stuff?
I do like the schlocky stuff. But if you don't like that stuff, it's still a solid B+ game from gameplay perspective, or from a gameplay standpoint, and from a graphics standpoint. So those things, good. Recommend from me. What about you? What games have you been playing, buddy?
Well, I got 2 for this week. One I just played today, Titan Souls. This was on the Twitch Prime sometime in the last month or two. And,
okay.
I brought up that, there's this correlation with Dark Souls and everything, and that was mentioned a couple times for this, even though I would not say Dark Souls for this. I would say Shadow of the Colossus. In both the good and the bad way. For those who've never encountered this game, which, honestly, don't blame me on that one, it's kind of a niche game. It's published by Devolver Digital, though, so, that kind of gives you an idea of where we're going with this to begin with.
Right.
It is essentially a boss rush game where there's not a lot of story, at least in the very beginning. That's where I'm drawing a lot more of the connection with Shadow of the Colossus than I am ever with Dark Souls, where you wake up and you're on this mysterious mission where you're slaughtering random bosses, and whenever you kill one, everything goes all glowy for a bit. Sound familiar for Shadow of the Colossus?
Indeed,
exactly.
That does sound familiar.
Granted, there's no dead chick, but I only got a little bit into the game. So, the big difference between this and Shadow of the Colossus is just how quickly the fights are over, in both the positive and negative fashions. One hit point. Bosses, usually 2 to 3. And they're all of the Shadow of the Colossus variety of very, very large compared to you. You're just this little tiny guy. This is a 2D boss rush game, but very tiny, but also weak points, and that's really the only way you're able to do damage to them. I was able to kill the first set of bosses, and then the game started to annoy me. Probably my biggest complaint about this game isn't the fact that it's one hit kill, or the fights are over very quickly. Both the bosses may slaughter you immediately, or you may kill the boss very quickly. It's the downtime in between attempts. I know you never played Super Meat, or I don't think you played Super Meat Boy. Right?
I have played Super Meat Boy, but I don't like Super Meat Boy.
Well, I'm going to draw the connection to Cuphead. All right.
Okay. I like Cuphead.
Now, I realize Cuphead isn't exactly a correlation here. Yes?
Just keep going. I accidentally launched Monster Hunter.
Well, I've bored you that much. No, fire up my farm bot, so, yeah. We match. We're playing games.
Oh, no, I closed it. I opened the task manager and closed it.
But, okay. The thing with Cuphead, even though it's not quite a correlation because you do have room to screw up, and the fights go a lot longer,
yeah.
Whenever you fail, how long does it take to start again?
Super Meat Boy? Like, almost immediately. You just press another button, right? And it starts the level over.
Yeah. And Cuphead pretty much the same way.
Yeah.
It's begin, and this has, depending on what boss you're fighting, somewhere between a 10 and I would say upwards of a 30-second recycle to get to the boss again. And with the fights, a couple of the fights, if you don't do the exact right move, the boss will fucking murder you immediately. And it started to get a little old when, lose, walk back 2 or 3 screens, particularly on the last boss I was attempting, which was this mushroom thing that was spinning all sorts of projectiles. And you would have to line up your shot, which the guy in this game is an archer. Once again, kind of drawing the correlation between this and Shadow of the Colossus, where at least in some of the fights, your main weapon was a bow and arrow. In this, you have one shot, all right?
Okay.
And then you're able to recall your arrow. But while you're doing that, you are standing still and are vulnerable. So, another kind of strike against it where a lot of the fights are very mobility-based. So, if you miss that shot, or it's a boss that requires multiple hits, like, matter of fact, the very first boss that you encounter, assuming that you go into the first door that's available, is this giant slime that's jumping around and slowly trying to crush you. Well, every time you shoot it, it splits. And eventually you just have to shoot enough times. This is actually one of the bosses that has the most health, and sarcasm quotes, to expose its brain, and then you shoot its brain and you kill it. Well, every time you shoot it, You have to roll away, run away, and then recall your arrow back to you to be able to shoot again. And also, while you're trying to shoot, you're also doing this charge-up move. It's a very, very jank system on top of what should be a more... Well, I shouldn't say should be. On top of what is a more mobility-focused game. Particularly with some of the later boss fights and some of the ones I've seen just on the Twitch desktop app where they show some screenshots of the game, and some of them just look fucking brutal with some of the projectiles. It's just a very, very odd design choice on top of the long reset time. And I realized 10 to 15 seconds for the first set. Then the second set of monsters is upwards of 30 seconds because it goes through this puzzle sequence where you have to figure out the ways to go on different screens. For example, to get to the boss, you would have to go, you go into the forest, then you have to go go east one screen, go south one screen, go west one screen, go north one screen. Then you go north again, and then you enter a cave. That's not the exact sequence, but it gives you an idea. And all of those have screen transitions on top of starting the fight. It was just such an irritating thing.
Right.
And I should say that I've enjoyed boss rush games in the past. I mean, I've enjoyed Cuphead. I enjoyed Super Meat Boy, even though I realize that's not exactly the same thing. They are difficult games, but they have a very quick reset timer. And if you're going to do a one-hit kill, you pretty much have to have a quick reset. Even if they want to do, some sort of checkpoint system for more reasons, which, the game hints that there's some sort of story going on. As a matter of fact, whenever you encounter each boss, it has the name of the boss and some sort of foreign language that you haven't deciphered yet. So, they have that, hint of a bigger world going on. But, it feels like they missed the mark. I'm glad I got it through Twitch Prime, to be able to try it out without paying for it. Which I realize technically I am paying for it, but I'm viewing Twitch Prime as kind of added bonus for everything else. So it's kind of that weird situation. It's not like how I view Xbox Gold games and PlayStation Live games, where you're paying for that subscription directly. This is more of an added benefit for me, and I have to say Twitch Prime has been beating the ever-living hell out of Humble Monthly for the last few months.
For a while, yeah.
But yeah, I'm glad I was able to try it. So, it does have that. And maybe it's one of those games that, it feels more like it's designed around streaming. Especially with that downtime in between attempts. Even though it's just hard to resolve one-hit kills and, very short boss battles in general. With such a long reset and just the way they have the weapon system.
Yeah. Doesn't sound
maybe it's just not my cup of tea. I don't know.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like it'd be my cup of tea either. The one hit kills thing would make it interesting, I think, but everything else you've described about this game is making me be like, So.
And it doesn't seem like they have any upgrade systems in place in the game. At least I got through the first set, no upgrades on my character. And I started working on the second set of bosses, which was actually... The first set was 4 bosses, each of them kind of highlighting a different aspect of combat, which is a good pseudo-tutorial. You had Slime Guy, which was focused more on how the arrow damages both when it's shot but also being recalled. So you are able to damage both ways, which is interesting. And the second boss actually made use of that. It was this brain frozen on a block of ice. And the way you had to defeat it was actually really interesting. And I do have to say that the boss design is actually pretty damn good. The second boss it has this sort of like forge in the middle, or this flame that will shoot up whenever a button is pressed. But the button is only able to be pressed by the boss. It's the only thing heavy enough to press the button. So you have to throw your arrow onto the flame, and then lure the boss onto one of the buttons to set your arrow on fire, and then recall it and hit the boss with the recall. Which is a really, really deep trick,
Yeah.
And then it exposes the weak point, then you're able to just kill it outright. I mean, once you get out of the block of ice, it's pretty simple. The third boss is a more mobility-based fight. It's this giant block with an eyeball on it that will try to crush you and then occasionally shoots a laser beam out of the eye. And the eye is also the weak point. So it's more focused on just a very quick, decisive blow. And then the last boss is this giant golem, which is, once again, it's more focused on its combination of movement and quick attacks. It has a weak spot on its chest, but it only attacks with one hand. It's like this torso up with two just floating hands around. And it tries to just crush you with its hand, while the other hand is covering its chest. Imagine that, it's a girl that's dropped her talent. She's trying to cover herself, modesty, right?
Yeah.
And then occasionally you'll switch hands and it gives you a window of opportunity to shoot it in the chest. So it's very good on slowly introducing the mechanics. It's just infuriating because, especially like the golem, even the golem, the last boss in the first set, that was a good 15-second reset on each one. And I was already starting to see, we're going to have trouble with this. Yeah, I only put about an hour in the game. That's probably about all I'm ever going to put into it, but it was worth that.
Well, I guess that's good to hear. It's better than nothing. I guess it could have been worse. It could have been worse.
Yeah, I could have paid for the damn thing.
Yep. It could have been worse than that, too.
Okay,
you could have paid for it, and it could have been like a horribly bad monstrosity.
Okay, so speaking of horribly bad monstrosities, actually I have nothing for that, so let's go to Gladiabots instead.
Okay, go for it.
Gladiabots, this actually, didn't get this on Steam, I got it through my press account elsewhere. So I was playing a slightly older version, I didn't have the Steam Early Access version. But I really like this game, for the most part. This is a puzzle programming / gladiatorial combat / sports game.
Okay.
Where you're developing essentially an AI for up to 4 bots, sometimes more depending on the game mode you're in, because there's both a ranked section for multiplayer, an unranked section which has just a bigger assortment of different scenarios, essentially. And then there is a campaign, which is essentially just a puzzle mode. I would say the real meat and potatoes for this is the AI development and the multiplayer, which is asynchronous, by the way, so you don't have to worry about connecting to other people. Every time you play online, you're essentially leaving a ghost of your team that other people are able to matchmake against. So they solved the issue of a community for this game pretty much immediately, which is nice. Yeah, and it has crossplay between this and its mobile version, and that's kind of the more galling thing about it. Not the fact that it has crossplay, but this has a PC tax that you wouldn't believe. This is $15 on Steam, well, $13.49 on the release sale, and it has a DLC that is also unlocks a bunch of cosmetic stuff for $10. On mobile, it's a free game. And as far as I could tell, just on my random poking around, it's exactly the same.
Nice. I'm going to say nice. I mean...
Which since this is free on mobile, you can kind of guess where the monetization came into this, right?
I'm sure the mobile version is loaded with ads.
Actually, no.
Or microtransactions.
What the mobile version's monetization is the cosmetics. You buy in for points, cosmetic unlock points. And each cosmetic thing for all the bots is a certain amount of points. And they're essentially just paint jobs, at least for now. Well, they're fucking expensive. Alright? I put about 4 or 5 hours in this game, and that's mostly playing on the multiplayer, actually, just playing the different ranked and unranked modes. And I got enough points to unlock 2 colors out of, I want to say, 10 or 15 on one section of the bot. Each of the bots has 4 different colorable sections, and each color is independently unlocked. So it is a huge fucking grind if you want to have your bots be anything except black or gray or white. Or have more than one color on your bots.
You can have it in any color as long as it's black.
Thank you, Henry Ford.
Yeah, I think I would take that approach to that.
Yeah, it's rather galling that there's no incentive to buy it on PC unless you want to throw in another $10, which at that point, you're looking at a $25 puzzle programming game. It's just, it irritated me.
Yeah.
But outside of that, outside of the monetization and the PC tax, it's actually a pretty solid little title. Each of the bots has their own. You would have to actually go to the Steam store to really get a good idea of this. Essentially, a programming tree, and it's all based on simple commands with modifiers on them. So you're able to build out a tree to essentially have a hierarchy of commands that the bots follow. So, for example, the first command on pretty much all my bots is if the bot's shield drops below a certain percentage, it starts to back away from enemies. Now, all the commands are followed from left to right, and then in a descending order. So you're able to do a lot with the different commands. There's commands for targeting specific classes of bots. There's commands for going after the resources, which is essentially capture the flag. And each of the bots, well, I should have said, has a shield and also a pure HP pool. Shields recharge, HP does not. And there's no healer class, at least yet. So you're able to kind of customize what you want to do and also try to devise different strategies. Like, for example, my sniper, which is one of the unique classes, which thankfully isn't an unlock. You're able to have one of each of the specializations, and there's 3 specialization classes in the general assault class. My sniper, for example, for the first 3 minutes of the game, will just try to shoot whoever has the lowest shield to try to do health damage. There's no shield gaining on this, so if the shield doesn't take the full hit, it goes directly to the health. But in the last 2 minutes of the game, it starts to hunt down for anyone that starts picking up resource caches to try to prevent the enemy from scoring more points to win. Okay. And this is just a very simple AI. Some of the example AIs just on the Steam store page is just obscene. And I'm not sure just how complex the actual competitors are, because you don't really see what they're doing. You're able to see their current command, but that's it. You don't see their actual AI, which is a little troublesome to try to figure out exactly how to alter your AI. This is more of a game for a tinkerer. Sit down, build an AI, throw it out online, see how it reacts. Oh, it's doing this and I didn't expect it to, or it's encountering this particular behavior that I can't respond to, go back to the drawing board, tinker around with it some more, change your team composition some, send it back out, mess with it some more. So maybe the grind on the customization isn't so bad, but, it's still a little galling whenever, I got about 3,000 or 4,000 unlock points in 4 hours of gameplay. Some of the random color schemes that you just, are able to pick up or have the game give you as, an idea of, how you customize your bot is in the 20 to 27,000 range. Thankfully,
so a lot of grinding.
Yeah, a lot of grinding.
You've already said that, but
yeah,
you just emphasize that point.
Yeah, and something else that kind of, ground my gears is the randomness of the arenas. Some of the arenas are very, very favorable to certain strategies. For example, some arenas may have all the resources be close to your own side, split between the two teams. So it really favors a team that goes after resources and tries to ignore the enemy team as long as possible, while others require the two teams to essentially pass one another to score points. And there's no real telling of what arena you're going to end up in until the match has already been set up. And once the match is going, you cannot change it, or you cannot change your AI. So that's a little galling. I do understand why they do that, to try to shake things up so there's not a set meta. But just some of the arrangements you could see on the Steam store page, some of them are vastly different. And short of having a lot of modifiers in your AI to make it look like, just a explosive spaghetti factory, it's very tough to have a more general AI. You're going to have situations where, the game screwed me because I didn't do this particular strategy because the arena screwed me. Which was a little galling, but not so much. I do wish that there was a little bit more standardization on the maps, but not to the degree that Rocket League has gone.
Right.
But overall, I do like the game. It's just, it's tough to recommend whenever you could just pick up the mobile version.
Which is what I just did.
Yeah, I think you would enjoy the mobile version.
I think I will too. I like stuff like this.
And it has crossplay, and it carries over the progression. Because I decided to poke around with the mobile version after trying out the press version, or my press version. I was able to download both my progress in the campaign, all the AIs I created, and everything. And something that's also kind of neat is that the AI hierarchy, you're also able to drag in the other AIs that you've built. So if you have a large subroutine, you could have it just be dropped in wholesale and not have to try to rebuild it every single time. So one of the very simple routines I have is the scorer AI, which for some bots, it does it immediately. For others, if there's no available targets, it'll go for, and that sort of thing, which is just a very simple, 3-command thing. But it saves me from having to build it every single time, or forgetting to do it and losing a match because of it, which I actually did one time. I do wish that there was a little bit more cleanup tools in the AI. Be able to color code things, having notations, be able to rotate things around so you're able to use the entire playfield, or the entire grid, I should say, because everything is essentially a tree right now, where essentially the AI master name at the top, and then it just looks from left to right at each command. But I would have liked to seen it instead have it be a clock where it's able to use the entire area and be able to essentially cordon off different command structures to different quadrants of the clock face. But that's more of a organizational thing. I think the big thing would be, color coding and proper notation, which is kind of not quite necessary because you could do these subroutines, but some of them, if you don't use them for everything, it starts to, or if you don't constantly use the same AI subroutines, it starts to mess up and clutter your overall AI list, which makes quickly editing your bots and swapping out their master AIs a little bit more cumbersome. But overall, it's a fun title. It's just a hell of a grind. And I will say that, I don't think that there, at least right now, is a strong meta. If you do this, you win so much of the time. Because I was toying around online and I saw some very, very diverse team compositions. I saw some that were built around just 4 assault classes, the basic classes, and have essentially one trying to run distraction while the other 3 scored. I saw some that relied on a shotgunner to try to flank and get a couple easy kills, which the shotgunner at short range, as you may imagine, is just devastating. I saw some that were similar to mine that tried to essentially just pick off weak targets by focus fire. So I do think that there's a lot of flexibility here. And it is very impressive just how powerful the AI creation tool is already. And the fact that the roadmap is talking about adding more commands and being able to refine it a bit more shows that there is a lot of promise here. It's just if they can continue it, because, it is early access, and that's always, a giant red flag for especially a new developer.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it sounded good enough that I downloaded the mobile version, so I'm willing to give that a shot.
Yeah, and as far as I could tell, at least based on the alpha version that I had access to, which the one on Steam Early Access is a beta version that's just one ahead of it, but I was able to tell that much of a difference between the changelog. I wasn't able to really pick up any major changes, but, I have hit mobile games in the past that didn't have ads and then later on added them. So, it's tough to say that, by the time you listen to this, there won't be ads.
Yeah.
Or I may have just missed them because I just poked around to take a look at the editor and, just my progress in the mobile version. I didn't get too deep into it because I was, the YouTube channel is kind of a PC focused channel. So I was kind of focusing on the PC version there.
Yep.
Yeah, like you do.
Like we do. Alrighty. Well, that would be the games that we played this week. We managed to stretch 3 games into an hour.
Mostly about me bitching about the ground wall.
I don't know. I talked about Monster Hunter for 20 or 25 minutes, so, we did it together. It was a team effort.
Yay, we did it.
Now we're going to go talk about another industry team up. Unless you need to take a quick break.
A double team.
Yeah.
I think I'm okay. Do you need to go?
No, I'm good for now. Alrighty. Companies are once again attacking consumer rights. We've got a double team from Nintendo and Bethesda doing bad things. We'll just say as a general...
industry split roast.
Yeah. But you said you want to start with Nintendo, and that works for the flow of our future news topics. So yeah, let's go ahead and dive into to what the Nintendo is doing.
Yeah.
I don't know why I said it that way. The Nintendo. Like an old man all of a sudden. Kids these days with their Nintendos.
Now turn off the Nintendo. It's a Genesis. It's not even made by Nintendo. But yeah, the PC World article, which we'll get to why that is on PC World. Nintendo's ridiculous war on ROMs threatens gaming history. And this is tied into also Emu Paradise shutting down, or not shutting down completely, but pulling their ROM catalog. And it just essentially just comes back to Nintendo being Nintendo. And Nintendo not being as family friendly, or I should say consumer friendly, as their reputation would have. Oh, it's a very irritating thing to me, particularly because I have the history with these older console titles, because I'm old.
Yeah.
Where emulation is viewed as piracy, which technically it is. It definitely is for a Nintendo product, because Nintendo is constantly reselling the same couple dozen games, it seems. But at the same time, it's preservation of gaming history. There's no easy way to play some of these old Nintendo games, these old Super Nintendo games. Hell, even coming up to, the PlayStation and PlayStation 2 era, where, emulation is still pretty solid for the most part. It's just right where the PlayStation 3 jumps in, you're still getting a little shaky stuff. There's no easy way to play some of these games, and even getting the physical versions is damn near impossible for some of them. And that's assuming, of course, that it was a game that was popular enough to, have people remember it.
Yeah. Yeah, I've played plenty of these titles too, though. I mean, there are many more that I have not played just because, well, I'm younger.
Damn kid.
But I mean, I did grow up playing a lot of. I mean, we had a Super Nintendo, we had an original NES, so I played a lot of these games as a kid alongside my N64 and my PS1. I never really played very many Sega games. We were a Nintendo household instead of a Sega one, but I've also played my fair share of emulated titles as well, particularly I've emulated a lot of the Donkey Kong games from the SNES era, several of the older Mario games just to play them. I emulated and played through Castlevania, the original Castlevania, a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So there's yeah, it's easier. It's difficult. I mean, it's not impossible, but the farther out we get from that time frame, the more difficult it is to obtain these games any other way. Some of them will have been released as bundles. Some of them are available on the Nintendo eShop.
Yeah, but some of them are fucking expensive, even on the eShop, for what they are.
They are.
And that's
most
not,
of them are.
And that's not even including, whenever Nintendo bundles some of these. But like I said, it's the same few every time. What if you wanted a more niche title? What if you wanted to, go back to some of the more jank titles? Or what if you had an experience with, this one oddball title that you just don't see anywhere? You're kind of shit out of luck then.
Yeah, aside from tracking down a potentially extremely rare and extremely expensive original copy, emulation is your best bet to be able to play that game again. And this applies to more modern titles as well. A lot of games from the PS2.
Well, I was going to say games as a service is also going to cause a problem with just gaming history and gaming preservation in the general future.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of games too, though, from the PS2 era, PS1, PS2 era. So more modern, still older, but more modern titles that are prohibitively expensive to buy an original copy of. Like, for example, a game I've talked about on the show multiple times in the past, Naval Ops and Naval Ops Commander. It's true, you could buy a PS2. There's plenty of those lying around. Or play it on your PS3, for example. I'm not sure if they're backwards compatible on the PS4. But, you could do that. But finding an original copy of the game, used or new, is difficult. And even if you find one, they're prohibitively expensive. The last time I bought an actual disc copy of Naval Ops Commander was 10 years ago, and that game came out in the early 2000s, something like 2003, 2004, and I purchased a copy of it in 2007 or 2008, and it was $60 to get a used copy without a case or anything. It was just a disc. I could imagine they're more expensive than that now. I'm gonna peruse eBay for a moment.
Oh, that's what I'm doing. I mean, hell, just going to some of the King's Quest 5. What the? This has a Super Nintendo, but it shows a NES cartridge. And that's where you start to see some of the annoying stuff where it's kind of iffy to begin with.
Yeah.
But if you happen to enjoy, the obvious one would be Earthbound, where just the cartridge itself could go for, well, let's see, $95. Here's a buy it now Earthbound game cart for $250, $78, $102. I mean, granted, it is a niche title. I realize Earthbound is very popular now, but it didn't sell well back in the day, so there's not many cartridges for it. But, if you hit one of those oddball titles that, didn't sell well back then, and you just, happen to be one of the few, well, you are so screwed without emulation.
Yeah.
Which, technically, I mean, let's get into the legal issues here, where the emulator itself, the actual program, is legal. And you can actually thank, I believe it was Sony for that, because of Bleem. Do you recall Bleem?
I do not recall Bleem.
Oh, Bleem was a commercially available PlayStation 1 emulator that Sony tried to get removed from store shelves, and actually they ended up damaging the company enough that they went bankrupt eventually, if memory serves correctly. Where this was not long after the original PlayStation was released. They focused on particular titles to be able to emulate, and actually worked fairly well. So this set the legal precedent for the emulators themselves. Where the legal gray area is depending on the emulator, either the ROM itself or the ROM and the BIOS. Because pretty much once you get past the Nintendo 64 era into the 32-bit area and beyond, you need a BIOS to be able to boot the system. And it's not built into the emulator, and that is piracy there. And plus, any ROMs that you're not ripping yourself, which of course we all own cartridge rippers and are ripping original Nintendo cartridges, right?
Absolutely.
And that's where Emu Paradise had some issues where they were feeling threatened. I don't think they got a direct takedown notice, but they were getting pressure from Nintendo. And they finally caved after 18 years of service. So it's very sad to see them go, but at the same time, this is essentially Nintendo trying to fight the tide coming in. Piracy is going to always be there.
Yeah.
And they are making themselves look like dicks.
Again.
Yeah. But this is also... Boy, this is going to come off sounding extremely racist, but this is also a Japanese company that is very insular. They don't understand the internet.
Yeah. Yeah, we've had discussions about things similar to this with Nintendo and other Japanese companies multiple times. And to some extent, I mean, I don't necessarily blame them for trying to look out for the best in what they think is the best interest of their company.
But at the same time, Nintendo puts a very, very hefty price tag on their past games. And only the certain ones, of course.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I don't know if I have anything else I want to add to this bit. I mean, it's Nintendo being Nintendo, and sometimes they're the worst. Sometimes they're lovely and wonderful and wacky and weird. And other times they just suck. And are also wacky and weird.
And sometimes it's both at the same time.
Yeah.
But I do think games as a service is also going to hit a very big problem with game preservation in the future. I mean, we've already seen the issue with MMOs. And that's what the big thing about emulation is. I mean, it's not just consoles. It's the old computer systems as well. Be able to emulate them properly. Because you're not going to be running the original Oregon Trail on your Windows 10 computer.
No, you're not.
There's compatibility issues, and even worse, trying to pronounce that word, all over the place on PC. So emulation is very important there as well, but it's not as battered on PC because it's not a walled garden directly. You know, pretty much anybody is able to develop anything. So at worst, you'll get occasionally a company coming up, but this is, in some cases, 30-year-old titles being emulated. And a lot of these companies on the PC side of things are just gone. Maybe that's where, Nintendo and to some extent Sega are in a unique situation where they both are that old. In Nintendo's case, that's hardly scratching the surface for them, but also they have the rights still. Because some of some of these games were just one-offs, or they lost the rights to the title a long time ago, so it's in a legal limbo, and that also causes problems for being able to re-release the damn things. Because nobody knows who holds the rights, or the rights holders may be holding out, or they don't even want to bother. So if you enjoyed a game that the developers no longer have the rights to publish, well, you're out of luck.
Too damn bad.
But it's a good thing that you're able to just buy a used version of the game and not have to worry about this emulation problem. Oh, wait.
Well, buying the game's not the problem. Selling it's the problem, according to Bethesda.
Well, to be fair, to buy it, you have to have a seller.
That's true. That's true, but if you're the one who's buying it, you're, at least for now, not the one who's on the hook for the legal ramifications. Bethesda threatened a seller, a game seller, a person who wanted to sell their game.
Yeah, that typically is what a game seller is. A person who wants to sell a game.
It just reads weird, because the person was just a dude, like me or you, selling his copy of Evil Within 2? Is that the right game? Honestly, it doesn't matter, really.
Yeah, it's selling it on the Amazon Marketplace as new because it was still wrapped, I believe, was the problem. And this is such a weird thing in general, not just because this guy is getting smacked around for selling a closed copy, but also that this isn't Bethesda directly. This is a law firm working on behalf of Bethesda, so this may not even be Bethesda directly. This may be just lawyers being lawyers. And I haven't seen anything confirming or denying that on the very beginning of it.
Yeah. Yeah, same. I haven't seen anything. And I've seen a couple of things discussing this, but I haven't seen anything confirm or deny whether or not specifically Bethesda was like, yeah, we're going to do this. Or if this is just one of those instances where, like you said, lawyers are being lawyers. But essentially what they're doing is they're using some specific sort of legal wording to say that this person is selling the game illegally because he's misrepresenting it. Because he's saying it's new, because it is, because it's completely wrapped in, it's wrapped in the plastic, hasn't been opened, seal's not broken, but because he can't actually offer or honor a warranty on it because he's not an official Bethesda seller, then it's misrepresentative of it, because that would mean that it's not new, because not being able to offer a warranty means that it's different from its original first sale or original state.
Mm-hmm.
And they're threatened him, told him to take it down. They threatened him with several legal actions, and said he would be on the hook for court fees and lawyer fees and all that stuff.
Essentially, scare tactics, legal scare tactics.
Yeah, and the dude was basically like, I just didn't want to deal with it, and so I took it down. just because I didn't want to deal with the problem. I don't know if he tried to resell it as used or like new, which is different than new.
Yeah, but the
I'm
problem,
not sure, but
granted, I don't have firsthand knowledge with the Evil Within 2 or the PlayStation 4 in general, but typically, at least with modern games, you don't want to have them listed as used because they may have digital codes.
Right.
And hell, some games are, at least on the PC side of things, which I realize is a different thing, may just be, the Steam installer, and it gives you a Steam key. We've had that several times. One of the latest Call of Duties, it had a cardboard CD in it with the CD key printed on it.
Yeah.
So, being able to say it's new gives you the impression that it is, factory sealed.
Yeah.
And just the scary language on this. Unless you remove all Bethesda products from your storefront, stop selling any and all Bethesda products immediately, and identify all sources of Bethesda products you are selling, we intend to file a lawsuit against you. Very friendly, huh?
Oh, yeah, just the nicest people.
I feel bad for this guy because, I guess he got the game somehow and just didn't want it. Maybe he just bought it and, read a review or something, or maybe he just bought it cheap from somebody and wanted to resell it. Make a few bucks. It's just kind of insane that they're patrolling Amazon like this. That makes me think that, it may be something personal against this guy. Somebody sent a lawyer against him. He pissed somebody off. Yeah. It just feels like there's something else going on behind the scenes here that we don't know because, it's, lawyers being lawyers.
Yeah. I mean, maybe, possibly. It doesn't surprise me that they're, patrolling or trolling through Amazon or whatever, or eBay, and are making these threats against people. Like, that doesn't surprise me. Companies do shit like that all the time anymore. The internet has made that much easier for them than it would have ever been before. On the article, the one guy that commented is like, yeah, I wish he wouldn't have backed down because they would have set a nice legal precedent whenever they wiped the floor with Bethesda. But
the problem is...
maybe the dude... I fully believe the dude is in the right, but Bethesda is going to be able to afford better lawyers than he could. And that's the thing. Like, it doesn't matter what's right or wrong lots of times. It comes down to who can afford the better legal team. And when
it makes you feel kind of bad about the legal system, doesn't it, whenever you think about it?
Kind of bad is an understatement. But yeah, whenever it's just some dude versus any company, probably 90% of the time, 95% of the time, some dude is going to lose because the company's got a way better legal team.
And they're able to afford just to drag it out as well.
Yeah.
I can't recall the actual term for it, but, just kill a legal case because, they drag it out and retry and just drain the opponent's resources. And that's completely legal.
Yep. Being a scumbag, legal in the United States. As long as you've got the lawyers and can afford it.
And also helps you get ahead in politics.
Yeah. That's probably true anywhere you go, but it's like extra true in the United States where things are just terrible. But, that's just... taking a turn I don't want to go down.
At least tonight, right? You don't have enough caffeine in you.
I don't have enough caffeine. I don't have enough energy. I don't have enough time.
Do you want some?
Yes, please.
Pretty much these two topics just went so well together, like peanut butter and jelly. It's kind of funny, just buy the games. Oh, wait, you can't buy them because, the third-party seller that's selling their used copy or light new copy or whatever is also getting sued on the same week. You know?
Yeah.
Damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Damned for just existing.
But they do raise the first sale doctrine as well. Be able to legally resell your items that you buy. But, Bethesda was just ignoring that.
Yeah. Yeah, because dude bought it. It's his property. He owns it. And it's not like it's a license. Like, he bought a physical product that he can resell that product.
Can't hear you suing. It's just... should we move on to something at least somewhat better? Because this is a very sad topic overall. It feels like the gaming industry just wants to forget their history, which I realize with games as a service and the yearly releases on certain titles that, they want you to only have, the latest and greatest. They don't want you to go back to they don't want the nostalgia, at least for the most part, unless they're selling the nostalgia themselves. I saw just one of the meme comics going around, the dog holding the thing, and it was listed at Nintendo Retro Games. Remember? And the guy tries to grab it. No play, just remember.
That feels about right.
Oh.
All right, but yeah, we can move on to another news article involving Bethesda. Bethesda says situation could be, quote, fairly dire if Sony disallows the Elder Scrolls Legends crossplay.
Yeah, now swinging back on the positive side for Bethesda, them trying to play hardball with Sony.
Yeah, so Bethesda wants there to be crossplay between the PlayStation platform and the other platforms that Elder Scrolls Legends is on, which, in case you don't know or don't remember, is the Elder Scrolls CCG, which is pretty fun.
Never got around to trying, and I think I'm burned down on CCGs.
Yeah, it's got some different aspects from, Hearthstone. It's got lanes that you play down in, so there's a little more strategy involved of where do you put stuff. You have to defend two sides. It feels a little bit more like Magic, honestly, than Hearthstone. They have interrupts and things like that, which don't exist in Hearthstone, so it's a lot more strategic as opposed to just being, random. It's a lot harder to draw one card and be like, oh,
I win.
Sweet, this is it, I win.
Yeah, which Hearthstone seems to constantly be introducing new I win cards.
Yeah.
Yeah, that they have one in the latest expansion that if you play it very last and you have nothing else on the board and nothing in your hand or deck, you win.
Yeah, I haven't played Hearthstone in I think 2 years.
I think about the same. I was playing just the Tavern Brawls, and they started doing the Tavern Brawls where you had to construct the decks, and I didn't have the cards, and because I was only playing the Tavern Brawls, I only had the classic set, essentially.
Yeah.
And I was a little too attached to my kidney to be able to catch up.
Yeah, Elder Scrolls Legends basically needs this crossplay to be able to survive. It's on Steam, it's on Bethesda's own game launcher, it's on mobile devices, which I would say is probably where it has the most life. But on Steam, for example, there's a all-time peak of 8,781 players. So it's got probably a fairly small community. I would say overall, all platforms combined, my best guess would be a couple 100,000 total. Which sounds like a ton, but obviously they're not all playing at the same time, if it's even that high.
I mean, the 24-hour peak is 1,800. I mean, that's not bad, especially if with crossplay.
Right, but without the crossplay, some of these communities, particularly, I would say the console market for these games, the Xbox version, I don't know if it's going to be on Switch at any point in time.
I believe it is, actually.
Oh, is it? Okay. But, without crossplay, those platforms in particular would wind up probably pretty isolated with a much smaller community. And PlayStation, being the largest console player, or the largest the most selling console of this generation, would have probably a pretty decent audience to potentially contribute to that. But again, they could still wind up completely isolated on that platform. So I'm glad that Bethesda's trying to play hardball on this one. I think it's interesting that they chose Elder Scrolls Legends to sort of draw a line in the sand as opposed to Fallout 76. But I think I understand.
I think I understand why they want to do Elder Scrolls Legends over Fallout 76. Is that they're able to try to open up to all the other platforms and not just the other consoles. It makes it a lot more impactful. Because if you try to do crossplay between PlayStation 4 and PC with Fallout 76, well, that's stupid.
Yeah.
It's a first-person shooter.
On top of that, I would say that the market for Fallout 76 is going to have a lot more players, a lot larger player base than Elder Scrolls Legends does or will have at any point in the future. So crossplay would be less necessary because the population playing the game would be a lot higher on the platform. So you run into that issue less about isolation and a small, aggravating player base.
Mm-hmm. And they pretty much say, but for Legends, it's absolutely critical. Both crossplay, which is how Legends works right now with every other device. You're playing against somebody who could be on any device, and more importantly, cross-platform progression, which means no matter what you do on any platform, you load up the game, so long as you're logged in, here's your progression, and here's everything that you've had, including everything you were doing. So they view it as a lot more important for the crossplay in this than Fallout 76. And it does keep the matchmaking a lot more fluid, because that's just player numbers, raw player numbers is what really fuels matchmaking. I mean, you could have the best matchmaker in the world, but if you only have a few dozen players, it's not going to work.
Yeah. Definitely would not work.
Now, the question is, if Sony sticks to their guns, which honestly, I don't expect them to change, just for Bethesda or, just for a card game. Do you think they would cancel the PlayStation 4 version?
Yes, I think they would. And I think they should. Because this is... Actually, now that I think about it, it's a really clever move. So crossplay is much more important to...
card game than it is than Fallout 76.
Right, but it's a small enough title that it would not be a big loss for them to not put it on the PlayStation platform. So I think that they actually, on second thought, are drawing the line in the sand at the perfect place.
Mm-hmm. They know exactly where they needed to put pressure. And I'm just looking at the PlayStation, or not the PlayStation, but the Steam charts for Elder Scrolls The Legend. And, their player numbers have dwindled quite a bit over the last few months. So, this is also free publicity for them on the other platforms if they have to pull the PlayStation version.
Yeah. I mean, it's win-win. Win? Yeah, win-win-win. All the way around.
Winners all around, except for Sony.
Yeah. I don't, I think that solves it, actually. Yeah. I think we did a good job. High five us.
Woo! Did you just high-five yourself?
Yeah, I did. Right next to the mic, so it makes a funny sound.
Oh, don't worry. Your mic always picks up funny sounds.
It does indeed. It does indeed. Something else that's a little funny, but in a good way, I think. Discord is opening its own digital game store.
Hey, another game store.
Indeed. Although, I'm going to jump to my favorite part about this. Is that Discord intends for it to act as a sort of aggregate so that you can launch all of your games from Discord.
Well, that's already in place.
With Discord? Oh, I didn't know that. I know that they've added the games view or whatever, but I didn't realize you could launch games from that. Because most of my games are on Steam, and Steam is one of the few things that actually starts up on my PC startup. So I'm just always on Steam.
Yeah, have you not noticed?
Oh, hey, the quick launcher. I seriously, like, never check this page. Ever. I just zoom right on past it, because I don't give a fuck about what other people are playing. Learn something new every day. Alright. Well, we can just move on past this news article then.
Not so fast, because what they're actually doing is expanding the quick launcher to be a storefront. Mostly focusing on indie and smaller and older AAA titles, it seems. And trying... there's two very, very interesting aspects of this. One is that they're trying to entice indie developers by helping with funding for a short exclusivity deal. They said usually about 90 days, so 3 months, which, isn't exactly the longest out there. Yes, it does kind of suck to have titles tied up in Discord, but at the same time, it's still a bit more friendly than other title or other deals I've seen. Looking at you, Microsoft. But probably the most interesting aspect of this is how they're tying... I keep wanting to say Twitch because, I'm drawing the correlation here because Twitch has their store as well and doing essentially the same thing, where the Discord Nitro will get essentially a Netflix of video games, where you're able to pick from a selection of older AAA titles and indie games to be able to play at your leisure, which is interesting and adds a lot more value to Discord Nitro because there hasn't exactly been a lot outside of just funding Discord. And this does answer, how are they going to pay for this? Because Discord hasn't exactly had a very clear monetization scheme, has it?
No.
They've always, there's been a lot of people going, oh, they're just going to sell your data, which, to be fair, they may be anyway. But, whenever there's this service that you never know how they're paying for it, it always feels a little iffy. So the fact that they're opening up a shop, feels like a natural progression, especially where they focus on gamers in general anyway.
Yeah, Discord has kind of been exploding just in general in the last year or two. They say they've got over 150 million users, which is a huge base to take to any company or investor market and be like, look at what we have. Give us money and we can do something with it. And the fact that they're taking it to a storefront, at least first, actually makes me feel a little bit hopeful, honestly, because it's not like, I don't feel like they've gone, okay, we've got this huge user base for you to advertise to. Here you go. Let's fuck up the whole service and fill it with ads and bullshit and try and make our money that way. Like, they're taking this huge audience and they're going to try and convert some of it to sales. And I prefer that to having my Discord server clouded with advertising.
Yeah, and considering that, this isn't technically another launcher to have another account with because we kind of already have that.
Yeah.
Because we're already using it. It feels a lot more natural. It's kind of this weird situation where it doesn't feel as off because, it's another storefront. Granted, this is going to be another storefront, so, if I get games through it or, get some sort of giveaway or something, it's going to be another place for games that I forget about until I really think about it. Looking at you, GOG, because I constantly forget, oh yeah, I got games over there. Oh crap. It does feel very natural though, and I think this, could be solving the problem of Discord's monetization. The mystery of it, I should say. Because they said that, what was it, only less than 10% have Discord Nitro?
I don't remember what the number was, actually. But if it's 10% and they're not lying about 150 million users, that's 15 million people paying $5 a month for Nitro. Or $50 a year if you pay for it all up front.
Yeah, I'm trying to find it. Yeah, I'm not finding any info really on Discord Nitro. But the fact that, they're adding the value to it. I mean, it worked for Twitch Prime. A lot of people looked at Twitch Prime and picked it up just for the free and, sarcasm quotes, their games. Which I realized, I talked about, Twitch Prime games earlier on the games I play, but that's not quite the same because I'm coming from Amazon Prime and not using Twitch Prime directly. But yeah, a very interesting situation with this. And I think it really depends on, one, who they're able to sign up, but also, are they going to curate this as much as they should? Because Steam has been having a very big problem with just muddying the waters and having asset flips, having games coming in, scamming and stealing, putting in viruses, not working at all. So if they're able to offer what Steam used to be, and it feels odd saying, well, what we need is a completely curated service, because that's what people rallied against, myself included, Steam, at least to some degree. But there's a difference between wanting a more open service and having the doors completely open for everything,
Yeah.
So if Discord is able to have quality games to properly advertise them, because it used to be, you get on Steam and you don't really have to advertise nearly as much. Well, now, good luck even getting noticed. Then this will be a huge boon for the indie scene. But also depends on, what they get and, also the pricing and sales, of course, and everything else. And this is still going to have the 30% tax, essentially, for the platform. So they are borrowing that model from Steam directly. It is kind of funny, though, how we're getting essentially two completely different services kind of crossing paths, because Steam has recently redid their friends list and their chat to be more Discord-like, and now we're getting Discord to be more Steam-like.
Yeah, I'm okay with that, though. I'm okay with that. Steam needs competition in whatever form it can come in. If Steam's ever going to get any better, it's going to have some of that market lead knocked off.
Yeah, and honestly, Origin's not doing it. Uplay is definitely not doing it. I would have thought GOG would have been a bigger contender, but they're definitely a contender, but not nearly as big as Discord would be. Because they have the pre-set install base, and just because it's so easy to set up a server to be able to chat, it's that's part of the reason why they exploded, and part of the reason why TeamSpeak and Mumble have kind of fallen by the wayside. They are a niche product and are used in certain situations, but they're not as easy to use as Discord ever was.
Yeah.
And
not for free, at least, anyways.
Yeah, true. TeamSpeak, if you were able to set up the server on a local PC, you were able to do it, but it was iffy at best.
Yeah.
But a very interesting situation. I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with this. And hey, if it allows Discord to continue to stay open, I don't mind it too much, as long as they don't start advertising heavily on our server.
Yeah.
Now, if Craig starts spouting out, hey, buy this game, then fuck you, Craig.
Craig, I, for one, support our future robot overlords. So, you're a nice bot, Craig.
Should we explain what Craig is?
Yeah, in case you don't know, we've swapped from using Skype to record the podcast with a Skype recorder because of issues with Skype, most notably for you.
Well, Skype absolutely pissed me off when I was forced to upgrade to version 8 because they discontinued support for all the older versions, and Oh, it's absolute shit.
Yeah. So we're using Discord to record the podcast now, and Craig is a bot that records our conversations, and I can download them to edit in case I need them for backups.
Which
I
honestly,
download the backups anyways.
Which honestly, it's a better service because, it's off-site.
Yeah.
And it's also, on individual tracks.
It is, which helps, because Skype comes in one track, and I have to split it. Basically, using the Skype recorder, you're on the left channel, and I'm on the right channel in a stereo track, and I have to split the tracks.
Yeah, and this is a hell of a lot better quality. So, my issues with Skype actually turned out to be positive in general.
Indeed.
But we are completely off topic. And we're talking inside baseball.
Yes, we are. So, does that cover it for Discord?
I think so. It's an interesting thing. I think the biggest thing is them funding the indies and also, putting more value on Discord Nitro because they didn't really have to do that.
Yeah.
I think it would have probably annoyed people if they didn't offer something, but the fact that they're being that generous, at least based on the articles that we have, is very, very positive. And I think they've took some of the best parts of Twitch Prime. They took looks at what Steam has done wrong in the past, couple of years, which is quite a lot, actually. And are trying to avoid the trappings of Uplay and Origin. So, yeah, it's a very, very interesting situation for this. So,
yeah.
Something else that's very interesting?
Yes, indeed. EA creates, quote, Mortal Compass, end quote, to prevent Battlefront 2-esque disasters in the future.
Oh, this is mostly just a point and laugh topic that they have to have a moral compass created so they aren't absolute dick bags. And yes, dick bag is a technical term in this case.
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, we'll see if it actually does anything. I don't believe anything that they say. So in my head, I'm just thinking, okay, well, this is a PR stunt.
Oh,
won't
definitely.
actually change anything.
Yeah, because if they make the moral compass committee or whatever it is, it has to, have some influence on the company. And having a moral compass, well, one thing it does, it bites into your profits because you're not trying to screw people over. If you don't have any morals and you just, steal and be an absolute jerk to people, yes, it doesn't make you fans, but it also makes you a shitload of money because you don't have any scruples about doing certain things. Having a moral compass would keep you from tying your entire progression system to loot boxes and then selling said loot boxes.
Yeah.
So this moral compass is going to come to their profits. And there's this thing with the games industry, particularly with the AAAs, where they have to have all the money ever.
Yeah, we can't just have some of the money or lots of the money or even most of the money. We have to have all of the money.
Oh, but yeah, moral compass. Oh, I just find it so hilarious that the Battlefront 2 fallout is still ongoing with EA. All this time. That they're trying to avoid this whenever it's just still, don't be jerks. How hard is that, right?
Yeah.
But the sad part is
it's not that hard, I don't think, for normal people.
Yeah, but the sad part is that Battlefront 2, yes, it didn't sell nearly as well as it should have according to their projections, but it still sold a lot of copies, and it sold a lot of copies to the uninformed public. The people that aren't listening to this, which boy, that makes it sound like we're think a lot higher of ourselves than what we actually do. But the people that don't sit and listen to gaming news, that don't sit and discuss it like film buffs do movies, that just are the equivalent of somebody that goes out to the movies and picks something that looks good on the posters, or may have seen a trailer and on a previous movie and went to see that instead. They don't sit and read the reviews. They don't see what the critics are saying. They just do things. And, that's where Battlefront 2 got all their sales. And the other part of that is that we're building a gaming generation that's used to microtransactions, that's used to loot boxes through mobile, that's used to paying for skins, $5-10 per skin. That I really, really do not look forward to the future of AAA gaming as a whole without, some, how about that? A moral compass.
Well, let's see if it actually points them in the direction of morality.
Oh, shit, it's just spinning in circles. It's broken.
Wah, wah. Alrighty. Well, let's move on over to our community corner.
Hey, we actually have one this week.
We do. So we don't have any emails or anything like that. We do have a topic submitted to us by one of our dear listeners, Jim3535, also known lovingly by me as Jimmy Jam.
Now, what flavor jam is he?
Strawberry. Definitely strawberry.
See, I was going to go with a non-jam, mostly because Katie got me to get lemon curd. And he's like that. A bit sour, but also has a sweet aftertaste.
Fair enough.
And he goes good with cream cheese.
He does. He does.
Boy, we're never going to hear from Jim again, are we?
Oh, I'll talk to him. Well, I guess I'll talk to him tomorrow night because tomorrow night's Star Wars RPG night, and Jim is in my group. So I'll talk to him before this goes live.
That is lemon curd?
Salty but sweet.
No, sour but with a sweet aftertaste.
Sour but sweet. Especially that aftertaste. Alrighty, so Jim sent us an article, How VR's Next Generation Shows Key Signs of a Maturing Market. This was a pretty long one, so people who like to go through the show notes, buckle up for a long read. But it's really interesting. Oh, excuse me.
Yawning during that.
No, I burped, but then went to cough, and then it just my body just locked up for a second, it didn't know what to do.
Well, at least
it was so blown away by this VR article. But no, I found it pretty interesting, just as someone who has experienced some VR related stuff. Basically, what the article boils down to is it's discussing the unification in terms of standard and controller layout. Because in the way that it works is that there's, you've got several major VR headsets or VR devices, VR capable devices.
VR monitors.
Whether or not you're in the PC space or the mobile space. And every game has to be designed to work with every different one of them, which typically that means that a game or an experience or whatever will target one headset as the primary and devote most of their resources to developing for that one. And then develop later for the other ones. And you get the big ones like Oculus and Vive tend to be developed for both of them, although not always. And then you might see some of the more mobile-based VR stuff being targeted next. And there's a few standalone headsets that exist now that might also be targeted, but they all are different. So what people are working on is essentially an API. It's not exactly an API, but that's the quickest shorthand that I could come up with for it. And I'm just going to keep calling it that, even though I know it's wrong. But essentially an API for it, so that you're just designing for the API, and then the headset manufacturers themselves can program how their devices interact with it, so that it's easier to program.
Essentially a driver.
Yeah, essentially a driver. That way development is easier. And it seems that the push for this is starting to gain some traction now that there's been a couple of years of hardcore modern development for VR headsets and devices. The other major point where that they're trying to bring things together is to standardize a control layout, because there are many different types of controllers for each VR device, and the HTC Vive and the Oculus both have completely different layouts for their controllers. So essentially they want the Xbox controller for VR, whatever that standardized layout is going to be, and then
borrowing my term.
Yeah, I liked your term better. I didn't really have a term for it, but in my head I was going to make that comparison, I think. Anyways, like it just makes the most sense. But yeah, get a sort of standardized or pseudo-standardized layout with only a couple of tiny differences to deal with, instead of being, multiple different sets. Because you've got sort of...
or if you want to borrow another term, essentially what Nintendo did. Because look at consoles before the Nintendo Entertainment System. You had some wildly different console designs. Granted, you still had some outliers like the Jaguar later, or Jaguar, depending if you're Steve Jobs or not.
Jaguar.
But following the Nintendo Entertainment System, it really focused down to some sort of D-pad or some sort of analog, and just a handful of buttons instead of all the buttons. And there was a lot of inspiration following that to keep it fairly simple. Granted, Nintendo then broke their own mold with the N64, but still.
And then broke it again with the GameCube.
And then again with the Wii, by throwing waggle controls into it.
Yep.
And then with the Wii U by adding a tablet. Okay, so maybe Nintendo wasn't a good example after all.
The tablet works, though. It's basically an Xbox 360 controller with a screen in the middle of it. And they now have the Pro controller, which is just a copy of the Xbox 360 controller, except with the Nintendo buttons. The Nintendo style buttons. So they standardized the industry, but then abandoned their own standard to be Nintendo, basically.
Let's just go back to the Xbox 360 of
controllers. Yeah, works better. Makes more sense.
But I do think looking at the early console industry and comparing it to how VR is now, it does have an interesting parallel where everybody was trying something different, trying to figure out what works best. So there is that parallel there. It's just it's not quite apples to apples here. It's apples to like pears. It's not quite an apple, but it's close enough that if you're hungry for an apple, a pear will do.
Yeah.
But I don't like pears, so.
I'm also not a big fan of pears. I can eat one, but they're not my...
I wouldn't be happy about it.
Nowhere close to my favorite.
I'm very picky when it comes to my fruit. Now, bananas, I'll eat bananas.
Some nanners.
Yeah, speaking of which, I didn't get any last time I was at the store. That was an oversight. But then again, they were in the middle of restocking all the produce, so it was busy there. But we're completely off topic.
As usual. So yeah, I mean, that's the gist of it. I really enjoyed the read. It's a little bit on the dry side because it's
more technical focused.
Right.
I read the first page and a half and then started skimming because I was running low on time, and I needed to get the info for the other stuff as well. But it is a very interesting time for the VR market. I think what really is going to push VR, though, is when it gets the killer app. It does have the experiences. It does have the added benefit for some games, but I don't think it still has had its killer app that it's platform exclusive. Would VR be considered its own platform? Or maybe it's just not. It hasn't had it for me yet, and that's the big thing. Because you do have things like Subnautica, you have the added benefit for stuff like Euro Truck, which I know Jim likes, an American truck. But for VR only experiences, it's still the experience area for the most part. But you get that real chicken and egg problem where to build a larger game, it requires a lot more money, but you're likely not going to sell that many because there's not that much of an install base. I think really what we're going to see, all right, the first game, the first full-blown AAA VR game, is it going to be from a game developer? It's going to be an in-house thing, either by Oculus or HTC, and it's going to be a loss leader, much like how first-party games are for consoles.
Yeah, I could get behind that.
Because think about it, your first-party titles for consoles are typically the ones that push the console to the max because they're able to be that loss leader, because they're paid for not just through sales, but also through the licensing of other games for that platform. So they could lose a bit of money, but still end up as a net positive because they brought people to that platform. I think VR is going to have to do the same thing overall, because there's just the install base is getting there. It is improving. I'm not about to say VR is dead. I mean, this isn't the 90s when VR was just a headache machine. Now it's a vomit machine.
Progress. Small steps.
Okay, that's not completely fair, but it's the technology is there. It's powerful enough now. It's just the main things is the software and also the cables, which the cables are being worked on. I have seen some wireless headsets being worked on, and there's always the turtle backpack PCs, which are also hilarious. Was it Alienware that was doing it at the PC Gaming Show 2 years ago? That showed
the backpacks?
Yeah, the VR backpack PC that talked about hours of gameplay.
Yeah. Honestly, I can't remember if it was Alienware or not.
It was an Alienware-esque case, yeah. But they were showing off this backpack that had the two batteries running in parallel. So you're able to essentially hot swap the batteries to keep going.
Yeah.
Well, which is pretty much the way you have to do it. Because battery technology for a VR capable PC is going to be very heavy. It's going to be very expensive, and it's going to run very hot. Which is another technical shortfalling.
Yeah, but that's not necessarily something indicative of VR.
Yeah.
The battery intensive and running hot.
Yeah.
Anything that's drawing any amount of power from a battery is going to make it hot and not last long. And I'm not necessarily just saying that to come to the defense of VR, but
it's more of a technological hurdle for just mobile gaming, which essentially VR in that space is a mobile platform.
Yeah.
But I do think that VR is catching on. I do think that it has its place. I just think it's going to be up to who takes the first loss leader. I haven't actually looked to see what the install base is for the various headsets lately. It's install base. I just wonder who is the industry leader at this point, because everybody thinks Oculus, but let's see. Data point of the week, according to an article from March 26th of this year, VR install base expected to reach 67 million by 2021. But then, then it slows down. Another article dated June 11th shows 55 million VR headsets in the the other one I guess was worldwide. About 55 million headsets in the US by 2022. So yeah, the install base would be there. I'm just trying to find who has the biggest slice of the pie. Looks like PlayStation VR, actually.
That does make sense, honestly, because they got the PSVR running on much, running on a...
Well, it looks like it's really a toss-up between PSVR and Vive, with Rift coming in very close as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, the PlayStation VR is pretty much the entry level right now. Once you get past stuff like the phone-based VR.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. And they're also projecting that the average price is going to go way, way, way down. From an average of almost 400 to by 2021, an estimated average price of just over 200. Which that's the other sticking point, is just how expensive they are. I mean, that would be the price of an expensive monitor, but a good monitor.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to get a VR headset for my PC. I'm waiting for sort of Gen 2 to come out and see how that does, and then either buy in at the newer generation with improvements, or if it's not like super improved over a previous generation, buy an older used headset that someone's trading up to the new gen.
Yeah, just toes it off.
Yeah. Oh yeah, spray it down with a lot of disinfectant. But
then let it dry and then spray it some more.
Yeah, but I'm wanting to get into it. Maybe next year. I don't know. We'll see if something comes out by the end of the year. I've talked about wanting to get a Switch this year, but I would pick a VR headset first if there's a new generation of headsets that releases by the end of the year. So, I mean, we'll just have to see. But I want to be in that install base on the PC side.
Okay, here's something else that's interesting. Is that, according to this other article, projected, they're actually looking at video outstripping gaming, which is something that we don't really consider, or at least I didn't consider, is VR video porn. I mean, let's be perfectly honest there. And also just applications, virtual desktops, virtual theaters for video, essentially.
I mean, I've said before, that's what I use my Gear VR for the most, is watching Netflix and things like that, because you get the feel of a massive home theater setup with just the little thing on your face. Plus, the Gear VR has got some tracking issues for playing games and stuff like that you don't have to worry about when you're watching Netflix or whatever. So that's another reason that I prefer, or that I use it primarily for that when I do use it. But it's much more of a novelty now, as opposed to something that I'm using often, which I was when I first got it and got it out of the box and started using it.
Admit it, porn, right?
Not that great for porn, honestly. I don't know if the porn that I've watched with it has just not been right, like the right quality, but no, VR porn is for the most part, has not been great. It's weird, too. It's weird. It's like, that's not my penis. I'm not this fit.
There's something a lot funnier than that should have been. Maybe the transplant was a success, you know?
Woo! So yeah. Thanks for the article, Jimmy Jam. Did we have any tweets or anything?
Nope.
Sweet. So that means that we can slide on over to our community, or not community corner, slide on over to our
Well,
Discovery
first of
queue
all, we need to do
after-
email is vglpodcast@gmail.com or tweet us VGLpodcast. Trying to get that in before you move on me again.
Well, I was gonna say, after we do the thing, and then I was gonna let you do the thing, which you just did. So you did the thing. Now let's doobly-doo for a quick Discovery queue.
Yeah, you do the thing. And first thing I get is a game that's not even in English. That's not useful. What in the hell is this? I'm quickly looking at... Okay. Now that makes sense why this game looks familiar. Okay, I got one almost immediately off the bat. Unavowed. This is a point-and-click adventure by Wadget Eye Games, and the reason why this was looking familiar, because I was sitting here and I was like, that art style looks familiar. This is by the same company that did the Blackwell series, and it definitely shows in just the general art style and how they're building the game. A demon has possessed you and has used your body to tear a swath of bloodshed through New York, like you do, pretty much a Saturday night. You're now free, but life as you knew it is over. Your only path forward is joining the Unavowed, an ancient society dedicated to stopping evil, no matter what the cost. $15 point-and-click adventure. Based on my experience with the Blackwell games, hopefully they've sprung for the pop filter for some of their louder voice actors. But it's had a very good overall writing for the Blackwell series, which is one of their older series now. So I think this is definitely worth checking out, especially if the premise is interesting to you. And I imagine I've stalled long enough for you to get a game.
Oh yeah, I've had one for a couple of minutes now. Factory Town. Build, expand, automate, and optimize your own fantasy village in the wilderness using marble run chutes, railways, running water, magic currents, and conveyor belts. I mean, I'm sold on this, obviously.
Well, I was sold on this before because I am familiar of the developer.
What has he or she or they developed?
He has made Robot Roller Derby Disco Dodgeball.
Oh, okay. Excellent. I didn't realize that he was the dev of that game, which is a fun game. Okay. Honestly, I was a little bit worried about the look of this game. Like, it just says...
Well, I've been following his tweets on this, and it is absolutely fascinating seeing this game in motion. It's essentially a mixture of RimWorld and Factorio. Not as strong on the Factorio side of things, but there's a lot of resource movement and being able to build out pseudo supply chains to be able to move stuff around via just conveyor belts and through log fumes and that sort of thing. It's fascinating watching it being developed.
Sweet. Well, I can get behind that. I'm all for anything that's even remotely related to Factorio, so...
Yeah, I'm getting absolute shit.
Same here. Let's see if I can get a second one without having to go to another queue, because I've only got 4 games remaining on my queue.
Huh. Okay, I may have something here. This is early access MMO, so... Yo, there's some red flags.
Yep.
Back to normal. According to the tags, early access survival simulation MMO. It has some impressive screenshots, but those could just be bull shots as well. It's not really showing any action, and it's not available for sale yet. So, a lot of red flags on this. And it looks like this is maybe their first developed game, or at least the first one on Steam. And let's put it this way, their trailer is showing a lot of building the game and not the actual gameplay. Oh, never mind. Now it's showing gameplay, and it's a very snapped together Lego style. It looks like a lot of placeholder assets. So it's interesting. It's probably worth a check out later, but not right now. But it's not even available for sale yet. So there we go. Oh, look, another Battle Royale game. Oh,
I was gonna say, look at the title of my next one, Infected Battlegrounds. Can you guess what this is? It's a zombie survival Battle Royale game.
I'm so sick and tired of Battle Royale.
Me too. This looks terrible.
If you want terrible, I'm not going to put it on the list, but go look at the one I just saw, Battle Royale Survivors. It is bad. Damn bad. But here's one that actually looks somewhat interesting. Star Singularity.
I think I've seen that game before.
Well, it's not listed on your wish list, and it's not available yet. So, it reminds me a lot of the original Spaz, Space Pirates and Zombies, mixed with maybe a bit of. Trying to think of the name of it. It's not Galactic Civilizations because it's not full-on shipbuilding, but a lot of hot swapping. Almost gratuitous space battles, level of ship customization, swapping out parts. Crafting, looks like it has a crafting component built into it. I'm looking at the tags here. Thankfully, it doesn't have Battle Royale in it. Procedural generation, so essentially a roguelite, a space action game. Navigate your spacecraft through a galactic scale mystery. Make sure to loot, craft, and upgrade your ship, your space fleet. Your combat skills will be tested against a machine learning AI, as well as your friends in versus mode. So, interesting. They're looking at doing machine learning AI for your opponents. So, could be very, very interesting. Yeah, that's definitely.
Could be.
So that's my cue.
Yep, I'm done with my cue too. Yeah. I only had those two. One recommend, one stay away.
Did you look at the one I suggested?
I did. It doesn't look good either.
I would say it looks worse. Which is, surprising, all things considered, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just labeling mine. But yeah, that is the Discovery queue. I don't think you wanted to do another one, did you? Are we going to end up going short this week?
What are we at?
2:20?
A little bit. Yeah, we'll be a little short this week, but that's okay. Sometimes we're short, sometimes we're long.
Sometimes we're actually entertaining.
We're always entertaining. Someone out there always finds us entertaining. Lots of somebodies. At least lots for us. We're clipping along in a decent download and listen rate, so yay.
Well, we had a hell of a jump with Spotify, but then it kind of trailed off again.
But
this is the part of the podcast where you go first. Again?
That is correct. That is correct. If you want to find me on the YouTubes, you can do so by searching for Gaming Psychologist. The Spin Tires videos are going to start going up this week, unless something has changed since we discussed that.
As far as I know, they haven't. I need to sit down and make my thumbnails, but...
Yeah, I need to do that too and schedule the first ones. Like, they're all uploaded and rendered out and everything. I just have to make thumbnails and start getting them scheduled. But that should have happened on Wednesday, if you're listening to this.
Which would be in the past.
Yes, indeed. So you can go to my YouTube channel.
Go to my YouTube channel?
Psychologist. Go to my YouTube channel, matey. Arr.
Avast, ye hearties.
And see some spin tires. And also the podcast on the YouTube channel. If you want to follow me on Twitter, where you can see me tweet about all kinds of things or retweet people that I follow when they say interesting things, you can do so by following me at JMA4707. If you want to head on over to my Twitch, where you can see community members streaming as I rebroadcast our more prominent community members. Also, you might catch me occasionally streaming or posting something for the, or using their Premiere system, so that people can comment live on the episodes and whatnot. You can do so over at twitch.tv/jarthur4707. And if you want to be my friend on Steam, my username is jarthur4707. I accept all friend requests from members in the community. You guys have all been awesome so far, and I have made many friends over the last couple of years that we've been doing this, and I hope to continue making new friends.
And if you wish to make them question your sanity and let them know exactly what episode of the podcast you're coming from, the password for this week is dickbags.
Nice.
Dickbags are... It felt fitting this week, you know?
Dickbags are always nice. Bags of dicks.
You know they actually sell those?
I'm not surprised.
Of course that's a thing.
Yeah, of course.
So which is also a fun subreddit to go to.
Nice.
Of course, that's a subreddit.
So where can they find you, and what's going on for you, buddy?
Oh, well, you can find me over at Gaming with Caffeine Rage, where I'm slowly getting back up to full strength on all my series. I've finally picked out what I want to play. I'm going to be testing it this week, as I'm also going to start rushing through Fallout New Vegas, because kind of took a couple weeks off from that. But, you know, Fallout New Vegas is going to be more story content, so it's going to be fairly quick, hopefully. I hope.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that's not going to be on the channel. It's going to be what I'm going to be testing this week, but as well as Spin Tires. And, of course, the ever-present RimWorld, which... Oh, RimWorld just will not die. Maybe it's the fact that I'm running too many mods and it's changing the balance of the game. Or I've actually gotten decent at the game. One of the two. I don't know about that one, though. But yeah, let's see. I'm trying to think of what happened in the last couple episodes. Well, one of the people on my name list, Cue Ball, he's been repeatedly being attacked by cougars.
Nice.
No, not that type of cougar. Not the one you find in the bar.
No.
The wildlife.
Wow.
But yeah, RimWorld is always full of random things. Oh, and I am going to start disassembling prisoners for body parts. So, war crimes. Then we're going to make a hat.
Yay.
Because, hats, that's what really drives the economy. Hats. It's like Team Fortress 2 all over again. But yeah, you could check all that out, as well as the Sunday Sampler, which this past week was Gladiabots, me praising and then damning it. And telling you to basically download the free version. Just like I did earlier. And hopefully I'll be doing it again this week. Well, hopefully not with Gladiabots. Hopefully I'll find something else decent. Because, the Sunday Sampler is always a little bit chaotic because it's built on what I get review copies of and just what's able to be recorded. Because sometimes those games just will not record all that well. It just happens because I use software recording, not a hardware recorder. One of these days I'm going to fix that, though. I'm going to get a hardware recording solution. And then have all sorts of new problems. But you can find my problems over at Gaming with Caffeine Rage, or see me tweet about all my problems or random shit that I find. Or just annoy Jared with, because, there's always that as well. Gaming with CR on the Twitter. What, did you say something?
I went, woo!
Oh. I just heard, what? It sounded like you had a goose in there or something.
Goose!
Da 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 da. But yeah, I think we've lost our sanity enough, so let's get the hell out of here. Once again, you could email us, vglpodcast@gmail.com, with your letters, voicemails, gaming-related topics, or trying to figure out what the fuck is wrong with us. Or just tweet us, VGL Podcast, on the Twitter. Our patrons have helped pay for our Podbean account, but you contribute more, patreon.com/VGL Podcast, which, like I said, is for our Podbean account mostly, with also some advertising here or there. VGLpodcast.podbean.com, which has our show notes, the RSS feed, or you can find us on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, pretty much most of the popular podcast aggregators, except for that one, of course.
Except for Spreaker, because it didn't update the way it was supposed to, and it's like, oh, you're going to have to come do it manually. And I'm like, fuck you, Spreaker. You don't know me very well, apparently.
You're going to have to do this manually. No, I'm not.
You can't make me.
You're not my boss. You're not the boss of me. That's Katie.
You ain't my mama. You can't make me do that.
But what I can make you do is say bye-bye after I say our intro and outro music is On the Ground by Kevin McLeod, and our Discovery Cube music is Doobly-Doo by the same artist. His work can be found at incompetech.com, and
as always, as his lovely music starts to roll across my voice. Bye now.
See you next time.
Bye-bye. Have another one of those peanut butter bars.
Yeah, I got the recipe for the peanut butter bars. I may be making those in the near future.
Yeah, Katie told me she sent it to you. They are delicious.
Well,
I mean, it's chocolate, butter, peanut butter, and sugar.
Yeah, I mean, it's
like, that's what it is.
I mean, it's so simple. Even I can
lemon
make it.
peasy.
It's so simple. Even I can do it.
Yeah, you can do it.
Well, in return, I sent her something that was on my to make list, and she kind of went insane.
What is it?
Mexican hot chocolate cookies.
Oh, yeah. We had something similar to that from this place in town that does... they make ice cream sandwiches using homemade cookies and homemade ice cream. And they like have a special cookie of the week every week. And one week it was Mexican hot chocolate cookies. Or Chilean hot chocolate... Something hot chocolate cookies.
Yeah, essentially
had,
it's
like,
a
chili spice or powder in it.
Cayenne pepper, at least for this version. Not a lot to make it hot, but a little bit of a afterburn, you know? Not afterburn like, a day or two later. I'm just talking about, just a little bit of spice.
Yeah. And they were delicious with ice cream. So,
well, I just sent that randomly because I wanted to send something in return, and she went absolutely ballistic. I wasn't expecting that response. I'm not used to getting that response out of people. I don't know what to do. She was happy.
Good job. Good job.